How many of you are here tonight because you have no internet at all at your house? Anybody that has, oh, we do have a couple.
What time of the day?
Oh, what time of day? Sometimes, okay.
You ask that question.
Okay. How many of you have it sometimes? Hey, oh, several hands, okay. Well, that's good to know. And what I find also interesting when I talk to people is how many of you are using a dial-up modem? Because we've got some in our community that literally are using an old-style dial-up modem to get to the internet. Nobody in the room that wants to claim that.
We did when we first moved here.
Oh, you did? Okay.
They said, don't you want DSL? We loved
Okay,
it.
so you got some DSL. All right. Well, I believe you're going to find this to be super informative, and it's going to be lots of good news, and hopefully everybody will leave here very excited. And we hope that where you live will have service coming to you very soon. So to not take up any more of your time, I'm going to let Michael come up with Windstream, and he's going to kind of kick us off and give you more information, and some of his other team members will be coming forward as well. So y'all give him a round of welcome.
Appreciate it. Well, I am Michael Four. I am President of Field Operations for the state of Georgia. And we have quite a bit of my team here today. I've got the Director of North Georgia, Blake Fields. Got Nicole Payne, our Regional Marketing Consultant, who helps Windstream look locally and say, what do we need to be doing locally to communicate with our teams? We've got Brandon, who is our local manager for the area. Got Dina Perry, who lives in the area, and she is our VP of Government Affairs. And in the back, we've got a couple of our retail team. We've got Dana and Tyler, and they're going to be here with you to answer questions. And when I'm done, when this is over, you can go back there, talk to them about your address, give them your address. You can see if you're in the area. We can go ahead and pre-register you if you know that when fiber gets there, you're going to be interested in it. So we're here to support you today. This is really about your community. Also have the gentleman on the camera back there taking care of us, and we're grateful for him. He's a newbie to our team. So Kinetic by Windstream is excited for the residents of Walker County and the Broadband Grant Award that was announced by Governor Kemp last February. Through our partnership with the county, we will deliver fiber gig service to nearly 3,400 homes in Walker County. The state's investment of $6.3 million, coupled with our investment of a little over $5 million, equates to $11.3 million that's going to be invested in this project. Windstream continues to strive to leave no town behind. We commend Governor Kemp, our state legislators, our federal legislators, and the Broadband Infrastructure Committee for the leadership on that issue. I'd like to, well, I've already recognized, I got to see if when you leave your script, you can do it. I'm going to recognize my team right there in my notes. But what we did. Most importantly, though, without the collaboration with the community, we wouldn't have been successful here. So thank you, Commissioners, for your leadership and commitment serving the citizens of Walker County in collaboration on this Windstream project. The support of the county, community organizations, and the legislators, including Senator Mullis and Representative Cameron, was key to the success of this endeavor. Special thank you to Chairman Whitfield for his support throughout the process. Back there you'll see a map. The green area of that map is intended to depict the area that we will be building in, so that's a general overview of the area that we will be building fiber. The service that we'll be delivering is fiber to the home. So there'll be no copper. We'll be running fiber clear into the home and connecting it inside the home. Again, you can go back there and talk to our retail team afterwards. And I'm here to answer questions if we have a few moments for that. Are there any questions that I can answer or my team can answer for you?
What if you're, say, 2 miles outside of the Green Range?
Then you may.
Is there any hope?
So the map, it sounds like you're in an unserved area, but the map is based on the state's data of what was unserved at that time. There's going to be future funding opportunities that are going to allow us to go even further out than this. The BEAD program's coming up next year. That is the large billions of dollars coming from the federal government that's going to be allocated. So when you're building broadband, it's like building any other infrastructure. You have to start from the center where you have connectivity and you have to work out. You can't start at the edges and work in. So with this $11 million, we're going to be able to get out that far. And then we'll keep striving, to continue that with future programs.
What happens if your present Windstream stream to your house is underground and up the side of a mountain?
So if you're a present Windstream customer and you're in that green area and you're one of those designated points, then putting you on fiber will be no cost. There's not going to be a cost to connect you. All of that will be covered. We've internalized a lot of our resources, so we brought construction in-house, we brought our buried drop teams in-house, just in preparation for all that we're doing now, because we know over the next 4 to 8 years, you're going to see more infrastructure built in the fiber realm than we've seen in the last 50 to 70 years. I mean, this is the rebuilding of the telecom network, and we're overbuilding our own copper. So if that's the situation, then we'll be dropping a fiber drop
Up the side of the
mountain, just like we did the copper. I mean, that's.
Is that 4 to 8 years your timetable to finish the project?
The governor gave us until the end of 2026. We've set a corporate goal where we're going to strive to improve upon that and set a personal goal of trying to reach the end of 2024. Now that's, weather permitting, all the other things, all the other challenges we have to overcome, but that's our goal, because we want to get this done. We want to be good stewards of the funding that's there, and we want to get it turned around.
Some of us don't have a choice. We're on the end of the line. Cable is not, and 20-something years ago when we built up there, Windstream was it, and we were like you, do you want DSL? And yeah, you bet we do. But we're the end of the line, and it's less than marginal, slow sometimes.
Yeah.
But,
And that's the way copper, the difference between
Yeah.
copper and fiber. And honestly, when the copper was designed, it was designed according to telephone engineering. And telephone engineering and broadband engineering are two totally different things, because copper only it goes by distance, and you have degradation over distance on that copper. That signal gets weaker and weaker. And so but telephone wasn't the same. Telephone just took a small electronic pulse that could travel a long distance to make this work. So you would weave in and out of communities, and you weren't as worried about that distance of that copper when we were designing the telephone systems. But now the copper for broadband is totally different, but this will all be fiber. So the distance and the degradation with fiber is not the same issue that you have with copper. Plus, the pros of fiber being glass instead of copper, the lightning strikes, the static electricity, all of those things won't be near the issue that they are with copper.
The fiber you're putting in now, will it handle speeds in excess of 1 gig? Because sooner or later, it's going to get faster and faster
Yeah.
and faster. Or are you going to have to pull new cable when faster gigs?
No, and that's truly the advantage. When I say we're building the new infrastructure, I think this infrastructure is what you're going to see for the next 50 to 70 years carrying this. So fiber, the advantage is every year they're improving the electronics that go on the end of fiber. And fiber is just the glass medium that transmits the light. So internet over fiber is just light. And they are continuing to build the capacity. We just tested an 800 gig over one fiber strand capacity. So when it comes to upgrading your broadband, typically now the device we're mounting in your home called an ONT is capable of more than a gig. So at that point, it's going to be just keystrokes on a computer when you call and you say, we want to upgrade. So if you want to go to more, so this will be I think that we're doing XGPON, which is 10 gig that this would be capable of. And we've already started rolling 2 gig out in other states. So the fiber will not be a constraint. And that's the most important part. when I look at what Georgia's doing right now, Georgia is doing a tremendous job of future-proofing the investment at this point, because you've got so many builders now that are putting fiber in the ground and using fiber as the backbone, and that's gonna allow easy upgrades. Those electronics aren't cheap, but they're comparably to the labor that you have to put in place to overbuild everything with new transport mediums like fiber or copper. That's the way you future-proof things, is by getting fiber in place. I know you may have an opportunity to speak later, but you probably have an opinion on this as well. Sir, you? Yes, sir. Okay, okay.
Are there distance restrictions with the fiber as there are with the copper? And or are they just so much bigger it really doesn't matter?
It really doesn't matter now at this point with the fiber. And just watching the way the electronics, the regeneration periods for the light is what you have to do at a certain point. You may have regeneration due to dB loss. So after you go through so many splices, you're going to have a certain amount of loss of that light. And so you may need to regenerate that light at a certain point and amplify the light. And that's the distances. But though you're talking, I don't even know how many miles you're at that point right now, because it changes so quickly.
You're 23,500 feet now on the copper.
Yeah, and Blake, I don't know if anybody over there knows how many miles we're at before we amplify on fiber, but the test we just ran was coast to coast with the 800 gig, coast to coast. So again, the electronics are just amazing what they're doing, and they continue to add color waves on those fiber too. So each fiber continues to be able to carry more traffic as they differentiate the color waves on them. So it's pretty cool stuff. I love it. So I love what I do. I'm blessed to be able to do it. So.
For Windstream, who's your backhaul provider?
We are.
You are.
Yeah. We take it back to 55, 56 Marietta. We also have in Virginia. Texas. We've got multiple locations that we haul it. So we've got our. Yes, ma'am.
The map indicates that speeds up to 1 gig for areas in the green. Is that going to be a personal choice as to what,
Yes, ma'am.
what you want to receive?
Yes.
Or is that just, or is there some limitations?
There will be pricing. There'll be tiers to what you can get. So, and that's changing constantly as far as the tiers, because we just went up to 500 meg as our base on fiber. So, who would have thought you'd go up to 500 meg? But 500 by 500 symmetrical is our base package, and then we can do gig, and then I'm sure in the next year we'll be rolling out. That's why they're testing the 2 gig in some of the other areas that we're in.
Okay, so there's not any geographical limitations if you're in the green area. It's all.
Everything.
Everybody has the same option.
If you get fiber, you'll have access to gig service. It won't be, well, your fiber doesn't. Not like copper.
Or like somebody a half mile down the road can get a gig, but I can't. That kind of deal.
Not with fiber.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know that at my house, I can tell you when school is in and when school is out. Because the kids get on and the broadband just gets tied up and you're being where I'm kind of dead. Does a similar set of circumstances integrate fiber if everybody gets on, or is it capable of handling infinite load?
We have a team that watches the demand capacity on the fiber rings. And every time they see the demand capacity reaches a saturation point, I think our targets are 60%. They start plotting what we call a mop to improve that ring. So we're watching the demand on the rings closely so that we can increase the capacity as the demand increases, so that we don't see those issues on the fiber. And we've got 10 gig and 100 gig rings. And we try to set the topography up. You know, you're going to have a lateral at some point. A lateral is where it's just one path going to your house. But throughout the state, the goal is to set rings up so that we have, right now, being the incumbent provider in so many areas, we're getting cut consistently by somebody who's going into business, or somebody's burying a cow, or somebody's putting a fence post in, or, you know, they're doing something, but they're digging in the ground, or they're driving with their dump truck bed up and they're tearing our fiber down. So because of that, you know, we want to have diversity, geographic diversity that goes into the areas. And we've really done a good job over the last 3 years of improving that diversity into the state of Georgia. And now we get tested quite frequently to make sure that it's working. So, you know, I applaud our engineering team for the work that they've done there. It's good. Yes, sir.
I live on West Cove Road. A representative of Kinetic told me over the phone that they have fiber in place north of me, Villanow Road, as well as Andrews Lane, south of me. It just didn't make sense because there's more people who live on West Cove Road than both of those roads combined. Is that true?
Well, see, the nature of so the fiber that we've been building this year has been there's three ways, excuse me, that these are funded. Our funding, RDOF funding, the Rural Development Plan, which comes from the FCC. Get water, please. And then the State Fiscal Recovery Plan. So the building that's been going on so far is part of the RDOF plan. And when you take that money, you're allocated a census block. And you can only use their money when you're doing the initial build out to build out that census block. You can't go across the road. You can't, you've got to finish it, be able to account for everything that you've done with their money so that you can get feedback. So sometimes it doesn't make sense when you look at it because there's going to be and it's probably a less dense area because it got that federal funding. But that's how Dina can elaborate on that more. But that's how that works, is you have to stay within those census blocks. Now when we're done, and this program may fill that gap in there. I don't know for sure, we'd have to check it, but it's all based on the programs and the funding when you're using state or federal funding as to what you can do.
So the federal program that Michael was referring to, the FCC, it funds specific locations that they have identified within a census block. And so you have to use those funds for that. The state physical recovery funds is really the same way. The state did a statewide map, and so that areas or locations that they identified as being unserved, meaning that they have less than a 25 down speed, and those were eligible. But the good news is that those locations surround some of those FCC locations, so we're hoping to fill in the gap with the state funds. And if you talk with our team back there and give them your address, they can tell you whether or not your location is in one of those served areas that's either funded by one of those programs.
Yes, sir.
So I'm on Andrews, so I knew when you guys ran the fiber in front of the house, but it's not to the house yet. And does that mean that it's just a matter of calling customer service and getting fiber to the house, or is there more to it than that?
Well, I think that the first thing is definitely call the retail store, take the number with you, call them and ask them. Because that'd be the first step, is call them.
So that brings up a really good point. A really good point. So pre-registration is part of what you're talking about. So once we have passed the homes and the eligible locations, we can't automatically switch you over without your permission. So we will need you to engage and to ask for that that migration to the new fiber service. And so part of the pre-registration is to identify if your home and location is eligible, and then you can pre-register, put your name on the list, and so when the service becomes available, we can convert you over to that to that fiber service.
That's a really good point, Dina. And that's something I failed to say is Eventually, what we're doing across Georgia right now is when my team can, they're out there knocking on everybody's doors in areas where we built fiber and said, hey, can we change you over? Can we change you over? Can we change you over? So we're out there reaching out to the people where we have fiber, but we haven't been able to do that everywhere. So if you do have a question, once it is in front of your house, you know, we do need your permission. We can't just go in there and change you over. So that is important. And no cost, again, for the transition. And if right now, if you're getting 3 meg at your house and we transition you over to fiber, you'd automatically go to the 500 meg minimum at the same cost. There would be no increase or whatever. Okay.
Currently at my house, as we speak, my download speed is 11.3.
No, 6. This is for here.
Okay. We noticed a substantial difference between upload and download speed.
Mm-hmm.
Does that go away with fiber?
With fiber, that does go away. With fiber, you get symmetrical speeds, which is becoming all the more important now at homes even. You know, it didn't used to be that important. 15 years ago, you wouldn't have thought, well, I need a lot of speed to push things out from my house too. It was just about streaming TV and feed me. But now, as you do more and you want to push information out from the home, the symmetrical speed, and more people are working from home too, that symmetrical speed makes a difference. So yes, instead of the 3 meg upload, you'd go to 500 by 500. It'd be
Where's your
symmetrical.
cable made?
Well, we have quite a few, but I know that in,
I mean, with the supply chain issues that we have
yeah, well,
developed.
Tony's our CEO, and before COVID hit, Tony was in South Carolina at one of the manufacturers, and they said, you know what, we've got some extra capacity on our fiber line. He said, we'll buy it all. So we bought all the extra capacity that they had on their fiber lines, and that's where a lot of our fiber's coming from.
So you got enough to finish the project. I'm gonna wind up, oops, we're out.
No, we're going to finish the project. This is just one of 18 counties, so we've got over 100,000 households coming out of engineering right now for Georgia. This last year we built over 50,000 last year. We built nearly 30,000 this year. We built 50,000 the year before. We have 200,000 homes in Georgia right now that can get fiber access. So this isn't new. We're not starting it. This is next. You know, and this is where we want to get to. We want to get to where those 700,000 homes we pass, all 700,000 of them have access to fiber. But that's, you know, that's a little bit down the road. We're gonna keep being aggressive with working to get it out there. Yes, sir.
If you happen to be in an area where you're not going to get fiber for, you know, if you miss it, and you got copper coming in, because other people are taking off the copper because they're on fiber, is that going to increase your speed on the copper?
It may, but not necessarily. We'd have to look at everything that underlies that to see what that answer would be.
I mean, there's less people pulling from the copper.
Yeah, but that's not the only constraining factor. Sometimes it's the distance, the distance from the switch. So, yeah, there's more to it than the number of people on it. There's quite a few factors that play into that. So, yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you're talking hopefully in the end of 2026, and I know you said 2024, but for those of us who run a business whose internet goes out regularly, today I couldn't run a credit card because my internet went out. Is there any hope for progress?
Oh my
present?
goodness, yeah. It's our goal. Our team's out there working every day to try to make it consistent. And if you're having a consistent issue like that, then we want to know about it.
I call on a regular
And sometimes
basis.
it's hard to get through.
Y'all know me. I mean, our whole area does.
okay.
I mean, Villanow is pitiful. I mean, it really is.
Yeah. No, that's okay. It's
And
okay.
it used to, we'd get credit if it was out, but
Yeah.
that doesn't happen anymore.
Well-
And sometimes it's down for days.
Yeah,
I
you know-
mean, it's not a quick fix. But we're
Well,
in the country, I understand that.
let's look and see if it's,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, if it's consistently out. This team will let me know why it's consistently
Well,
out.
they can take, the Windstream looks at it and says, yep, you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, y'all.
You know, there are blessings.
Yeah.
There are blessings and challenges to being the incumbent provider. And some of the challenges of being the incumbent provider, we are really an aggregation of the rural telephone companies of the past that have been put into one group. We are the rural telephone companies from all across Georgia and these other states. And we've got that infrastructure that we inherited. And my team works diligently every day to do that. We are as excited about anybody as fiber rollout. These guys are as excited about anybody because they care. They live here. You know, I live in Cleveland, Georgia. So I get to talk to the people, you know, there. But these guys live in this community. Their kids go to school, you know, and we care about it. So we are excited about this too. But if it's a consistent issue like that, I'd really like to see what we can do. If there's more we can do, we'll do our best to get it. But we have to know about it, you know, because if we don't know, and sometimes that call line can be busy and clogged, and these wonderful people at the retail store, you know, take their card too, because sometimes they're easier to get to, and then you'll have it when you're ready to upgrade too. So.
It's not every day anymore.
Oh.
Or multiple times a day, generally.
Well, you know,
so it is better.
Some of what we used to see in this area was because we didn't have diversity in our fiber. So every time something may get hit, even in another part of the state, it may cut the primary route that was feeding us. But again, do the analysis that we've been doing of our network and how we can get diversity into the different switches, you should be seeing more uptime, you know, than you were. But if there's still areas at your place, we want to see what we can do to help you out.
I need plenty of phone numbers.
I tell this story a lot, because we're talking about, I think you said you're gonna have like 6 megs down, is that what your speed test is going? And so the underserved is 25 megs. We're talking gig, a gig service is 1,000 megs down and 1,000 megs up. Well, 12 years ago, I was working on a federal program for this area, and the speed requirements at that time, and this was standard, this is what everyone could get, and they thought it was acceptable. If you got up to 6 megs, and the goal was 10 megs down and 1 meg up, and you were supposed to be smoking with speed. That was just 12 years ago. And so I compare this to any other utility. We're going from, 10 down and 1 meg 12 years ago was great. And now we're talking about needing 500 megs or 1,000 megs in just 12 years. So imagine that kind of growth with any other kind of utility. Water, sewer, electricity, that demand and that capacity jumping that fast in such a short period of time, and the infrastructure improvements and the cost to do that, to increase your capacity to manage the growth that we've had in the internet and broadband, it's really been a challenge for incumbent providers to keep up with that. So I tell that story because when I put it in perspective for myself, because I've been working in Northwest Georgia, now across the state for a long time, because I am like you guys, was that customer that didn't have those speeds and knew how important it was. Even when I worked on that project before, that was a federal funded project, I saw that many businesses got improvement, but a lot of residents didn't. And so it became sort of a passion of mine to continue that, to see that we could get it. And then when I started thinking about, gosh, if any other utility had that kind of demand and that kind of growth and needed to catch up within that short period of time, what it would be. And that's where we're at. And so to talk about what fiber to the home, I have fiber to my home. I have a 17-year-old son that likes to game. So to tell you the improvement, 2 weekends ago, he and his friends, I had 5 teenage boys at my house. They were watching 3 different football games, gaming on one device, and streaming music on another. Now that's what you can do when you have fiber. That's the game changer, literally.
I will have to compliment you as I cannot remember when the last time was that we lost internet service. It's been several years. Now, don't ask me about Dish Network when it rains, but I can't remember when we lost, the last time we upgraded our modem, several years ago. Even though it's slower than we would like, the it's been consistent in being there anytime I want to tap into Amazon or eBay.
Oh, yeah.
I said we should have a tax on my driveway for all those delivery trucks.
No, I don't. We do have a problem
For
sometimes
me.
now that we've gotten into maybe streaming some movies, that it waits for the buffer to do that.
Yeah, Netflix has the system built a little more fine-tuned, I think, than some of the others, the way they're buffer and run on some of those speeds, but we appreciate the time. Any more questions? And we're gonna be here, so if you have anything afterwards.
I do have a question, so
Yes, sir.
to make sure I understood you correctly. So, and I do live in a rural area also with this event. And people ask me a lot of questions about this. So if they've got internet now through copper, I guess, and you guys get the fiber ran,
Yes, sir.
you're saying there won't be any charge to switch to the broadband as long as you're 500?
No, there won't be any charge to switch to the,
And if you go to 1 gig, there will be a charge?
that's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. You'll go to the base speed at no charge.
Okay.
Which is gonna be higher than anything you're getting on copper.
Sure.
So yes, you would go there, and then you can, for an upcharge, you can go to the higher speeds. Yes, sir.
Thanks a
What
lot.
is the base speed?
The base speed right now is 500 meg.
Okay, just wanted to-
Yes.
What does that base cost in dollars?
Base is around $60. That's, I'd say right around the $60 mark. And that's just the internet, no surcharges, fees, all the other things we have to do for the others that are involved.
So will this eliminate landlines?
Over time, I think that we will go, if you come tour one of our facilities, you see the generations of telecom. Because we've got the twisted pair in there, where they have the pins and they punch it down on the pins. And then we've got this other mega machine that's in brown cabinets that roars. That's when we transition to the next generation of telephone service. And then we've got a cabinet that's the same size as this sign right here that carries the next generation of telephone service. So everything, those cabinets that fill half of this room to carry the last generation of phone service now are consolidated into one cabinet, actually one server in one cabinet, but that carries this generation. So the power consumption is tremendously down. Plus this one is mirrored on one we've got in another county across Georgia, so that we've got multiple points, of diversity for that. So our desire is, let's move people. Let's get them, so that we don't have so many generations that we have to keep up with, but also because we want all our customers to be on the best. And fiber's gonna give you the best. And so that,
One last question. So
Yes, ma'am.
once that fiber optic is coming into my house, I can literally do away with my phone line for my DSL.
You'll be able to get rid of your copper line, excuse me.
Yes.
You'll be able to get rid of your copper line. Now,
Yes.
if you want to keep a home phone number, we can transition that phone number, and then it would run over, and we would just put, I'll give you another term, an ATA, an analog adapter, that we would plug your phone into, and it would transition it then so it could work over the internet. But
Okay.
you would be able to keep your same phone number, and we would transition that over.
Okay.
Okay? Well, thank you all. Appreciate it.
What we're talking about here tonight, that y'all are all experiencing in the term, is what they call the digital divide. It's those that have high-speed internet and those that do not have high-speed internet. And so that's what our state is trying to solve with partnering with companies like Windstream, is to solve that digital divide problem. Because you mentioned, Richard, about, school kids getting on and it's slowing down that service because there's a high demand now for school kids, because most of them are toting some type of device to and from school. Most of the time it's even issued by the school, some type of Chromebook or laptop or iPad or something. So our kids are getting educated. One thing too I wanted to point out, if you look at the map here of Walker, the purple is in the southern part, basically say Rock Springs South. And so this grant that we got is to serve the unserved and underserved parts of our community. So basically, north, there's a lot of service options the further north you go. And in many areas, the closer you get to this Tennessee state line, sometimes you've got more than a couple of choices of internet service. But many of you, as you've indicated here tonight, in the southern part of our county, the more rural part of our county, especially over in the Amerchie Valley, you've got one option, and that's your current telecom, at best. And there are many people in our community that are still using the old style dial-up modems. They don't even have the option of the DSL. So I just wanted to also point out, we have Representative Mike Cameron here with us tonight. Mike, wave to everybody. And we have Senator Jeff Mullis here with us tonight. And I will have to say, if it wasn't for these two guys advocating for Walker County, I don't know if we would have got this grant funding like we did. And I know these guys spent a lot of soles of their shoes walking the halls down at the Capitol, phone calls that they made, pushing for Walker County. Because this project where they're servicing or be able to service 3,339 subscribers, that's going to cover about 83% of the unserved and underserved of our community. So I know some of you here tonight, there's been a couple that have identified you may be in that, 17% or so that has not got service. But it's encouraging to me to know that there's additional funding coming down through the federal government for service. And as they build out the infrastructure and get it closer to you, the easier it's going to be for them to service all of the community and fill out all of those additional voids. I have talked to people in Walker County that have already got service. You mentioned, Tatum Road earlier. I've talked to people on Tatum Road that say, hey, we saw the contractor hanging the fiber and we went and talked to them and we called the retail and, got on the list and we've already got service. So it is going to be a gradual rollout. So it's not like, don't take it. It's when he said their goal's 24, it's not they're going to wait to 2024 then throw the switch. As they're building out, they are signing customers up as they get the networks in place and get the service and all there in, for you to be able to connect. So that's why it's so important here tonight. And one of the reasons why we wanted to kind of have this kickoff meeting is for y'all to get with the folks in the back and let them pull your address up, key in your name and information that you are interested and that you want to be able to get connected as soon as possible. And that's going to be the best way for people to get connected. But don't get discouraged and think this is never going to happen. And that's another reason why I invited Windstream to come up here today, because I know it may sound like, well, this is all the politicians talking. Is it really ever going to happen? And I want y'all to know it is going to happen. It's already underway. And we are communicating with Windstream on an ongoing basis. And one thing that said a lot to me when we started having these conversations with Windstream, I guess about a year ago, is when I found out that Dina Perry was on the team. And that was a phenomenal grab by Windstream to get her on the team. And Dina's been working with the state. She's also worked with our Northwest Georgia Regional Commission. And her and I have served on committees together back, I think, in 2018, 2019. We were serving on committees together, and we actually even went one time out of state to talk to a vendor. And that committee and that commute was all about trying to get broadband internet services improved in Walker County. So this has been years in the making, and it's all coming down to being able to get this funding to make all this happen. And so it gave me a lot of comfort and confidence that I knew when Dina reached out to me and she says, hey, let's do this, I knew we had a true partner with Dina. It also spoke volumes about Windstream, that they're bringing the top people in around the state to make this happen. So that gave me a lot of reassurance that this was going to happen and that we were making the right partnership. And so we couldn't have done this, without our entire government team. Our Board of Commissioners had to approve this, and Brian Hart's here with us tonight, and he lives over in the rural part of the Amerchie Valley, so he's as anxious as anybody else to get connected. So this is a team effort. Be patient. Please sign up. There's a lot of folks here with the shirts and on tonight from Windstream. So talk to them if you have any additional questions, and be sure and shake Senator Mullis and Mike Cameron's hand and thank them for all that they've done to support Walker County on this broadband. So, yes, sir, you got something else?
Yes,
Yeah, come on up.
Yes. Now, on the table back there, for those of your neighbors who may not have made it, on the table back there, there's a flyer. And this QR code on the flyer will let them go ahead and pre-register too. So if you take one of these flyers and you share it, that QR code will help your neighbors get signed up.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? Okay, it is probably about perfect timing. It's about 6:45. So that gives y'all some time to go back and talk to them at the table and sign up. And then at 7 o'clock, we're going to have part 2, which is our folks from Macklemore are going to come and present the project about the hotel, convention, conference center, and the golf courses up on Lookout Mountain. That's going to be a real economic driver for our community. So stay tuned for that at 7. Thank y'all.